Hey guys, Tony here. Back once again to spotlight a record from my collection. And the album that I chose to talk about tonight is an interesting one, and one that I didn't really know about prior to stumbling across it in a record store. And it was right at a time when I was really getting into the Canterbury scene, the Canterbury prog scene, UK progressive rock scene. Um, and I didn't know what it was, but it looked interesting, and I started reading the names on the album, and it was just like, I have to get this, it's one of those things. So it's by a extremely large ensemble, 50 plus musicians, and a band, an orchestra, if you will, called Centipede. And the name of the album, their only album, is Septober Energy by Centipede. So Centipede is basically the brainchild of Keith Tippett, or Keith Tippett. Um, Keith Tippett is a jazz pianist, mostly known for his band, the Keith Tippett Group. But he's played with a number of people, most notably probably King Crimson. He played on, I think, In the Wake of Poseidon, all the way up through Islands, like 3 albums. Um, and he married Julie Driscoll. She became Julie Tippett. Well, he decided he started writing these compositions, 4 compositions, and they were designed to be played by a large ensemble. So he assembled what I imagine are his musical friends and acquaintances, along with a number of other musicians and I think students as well, to form Centipede. So this album was recorded in 1971. They recorded the whole thing within 3 days, which is pretty remarkable. So they took the 4 compositions and basically had this huge band improvise around the compositions. It's an interesting listen. It is a 2 LP set. Okay, so let me talk about who's on this record. So you have sort of a who's who of UK jazz, free jazz, and progressive rock, the Canterbury scene. So let me name just a few names on here. This whole list of names is, and this is the front cover. So just some names that sort of jump out at me. Let's see. Alan Skidmore, Brian Smith, Ian McDonald, Elton Dean, Ian Carr. Who else? Carl Jenkins, John Williams, Nick Evans, Paul Rutherford, John Marshall, Robert Wyatt, Brian Godding, Julie Tippett, his wife, Mike Paddo, Zoot Money, that's how you say it, Mooney Money, and yeah, Keith Tippett, of course. So members of Soft Machine, Nucleus, I think the whole band Nucleus is on here. Also the Keith Tippett Group, and yeah, a lot of other musicians. Also King Crimson, produced by Robert Fripp. So yeah, remarkable. It was recorded in only 3 days. So it's an interesting listen. It doesn't get a lot of credit, or let's say it's not ranked highly. Maybe not as highly as it should be, because there's a lot of sort of improvisation, these sort of aimless sounding or free jazz noodlings, but when you start getting into the album, it's when portions of the orchestra sort of break off and do sort of different parts, do the actual sort of the I don't know, the main part of the compositions. It's when it's really, in the solos. I mean, there's some solos on here that are just incredible. I believe Elton Dean does the solo, especially, that it's just like mind-blowing. Keith Tippett has a solo. There's also, so think of this as a mixture of a large jazz ensemble playing a lot of improvisation mixed with prog rock, because there are some Crimson-esque portions of this album. I mean, overall, it is sort of uneven, but when you listen to it as a whole, the 2 LPs in order, it is pretty astounding. There are some lyrics and vocal parts. The lyrics were written by Julie Tippett, so she, of course, shares the writing credit. Robert Wyatt plays drums. You know, it's a really cool record. It's also sort of a pain to listen to, right? Because 2 LPs. So the first LP is side A and side D, and the second LP is side B and C. So you got to change records to listen to it in order. But when you listen to it all the way through, it's pretty mind blowing. And it's a record that I'm really glad to have in my collection. But yeah, Centipede. So this is the U.S. press, released in 1974. The UK press, which came out on the Neon label, had a different cover. It was pretty much a plain, I think, white cover, which just had the Centipede and Septober Energy on the Neon label. And then in 1974, this was released in the U.S. With this cover. And this is a beautiful copy. When I bought it, it wasn't cheap, but still, it was one of those things like I had to have it. The band Centipede was pretty short-lived. I mean, I think they played a couple gigs in the UK, a couple in France, and I think when they played in France, it was like a smaller band just for logistical reasons. I mean, touring with this 50-plus piece orchestra. But yeah, if you're into jazz, free jazz, if you're into like the UK jazz scene, the UK prog scene, the Canterbury scene, this is definitely worth looking into. You know, if you collect that sort of stuff, this is, you know, just for the names and the fact that they all play together. But I do recommend listening to it. The music is really good overall, and it's a piece that I'm really glad to have. So there you go, Centipede, Septober Energy from 1974. So that was my pick for today, I guess. So leave me some comments. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon.